before we get to you, I just want to tell you that I remember the show so clearly, so well. It was a lot of fun. Whatever its flaws were, I mean, I don't know, whatever the critics said, was it a chorus line? No. But you know what? I enjoyed it. I had a great time. I remember loving it. I love Brian Gari's work. Do you say Gari or Gary?
Gary, I believe. And I did love the music. You know, it was really just a little sitcom with music. It was sweet and cute. Probably should have been off Broadway, but
it should have been off Broadway. You went from no Broadway shows to getting the lead. That's what blows me away.
Well, the crazy part about how that happened was I had done a chorus line with this girl, Terry Sire, who was in New York. And Rory was a friend of Frank Scardino, this director we knew. And he was out here looking for a Goldie Hawn type, and at the time I was blonde, who sang and danced. And I guess he hadn't found it yet. And for this show. And so Terry calls me up from New York, and I'm in Simi Valley. I'd come back, and she said, so what are you doing today? And I was like, oh, I don't know. You want to have lunch? She goes, no, there's a director here, or there's a producer here who's looking for a Goldie Hawn type, blah, blah, blah. So he was leaving in 2 hours on a plane. I called him up. I met him. I sang by the pool. And in a corridor in the hotel. So he's like, when can you come to New York? Of course, I said yesterday. So I flew out. And now I've got all these people who'd been called back forever. And, you know, they gave it to me. It was just one of those freak
Were you
things.
shocked? You guys,
Oh
it was the second curtain call to the last person. It was the lead. You
Yeah.
guys, I'm sure you're fascinated. She was the star on Broadway, and then you left to raise a family. Is that how it worked? Or
Well, kind of. I mean, look, it's all about choices. And I actually didn't mean to leave permanently. I had a townhome here, and I was divorcing from a very short-lived marriage. Thank you, Brian Gari did write about it, and we bombed in New London, Connecticut. Was no
he sent me the postcard and the CD. So
no, he wrote a book called "We Bombed."
No, I know. He told me about bombed in New London.
It was hilarious, but I didn't even know it existed. I was like, oh my god, personal stuff. No.
Hold on. I have a little surprise for you. We have 2 surprises, okay?
Oh, love surprises.
The first surprise, I want to see if I can play this for you. I had to pull some strings to get the sheet music, but let me see if I can do it, okay? All right. Gabrielle, you're really off the wall. Oh, Gabrielle, it's crazy if I fall. Oh, Gabrielle, I can't see this, you're the prettiest thing, whatever. To help you with your answers, mademoiselle. Oh, Gabrielle. You probably haven't heard that song in years.
I know. I love that. And you with getting over a cold, and you sound that amazing. My goodness.
I sound horrible, but thank you. No, I'm like trying to read here, and the problem is like to have the spotlight on me, and I'm in the dark. Like this is what I see. I'm like, Gabrielle. I can't see a thing. The music's fine, but the problem is the words. I can't see a thing. And I practiced it too, but not really. I should have practiced it. Note for Joe as a talk show host, don't sit on Periscope. Practice your music. Okay. All right. So we have another. Oh, yeah, she's going to sing. I don't care if it's 2 lines. She'll sing.
Me?
Yes, you will. Now,
oh, God, I don't remember.
We have another surprise for you. Are you ready?
I'm bracing myself.
You may want to brace yourself.
Okay.
I am opening the seat. So we have a surprise. Nobody come in unless you were told to come in.
I see a little egg popping up. Oh my God! Hi, Brian! How are you?
Oh my God!
How are you?
Hi, can you hear?
I can hear you. I can see you and I can hear you.
Well, that's good. Is this I don't hear myself in the headphones at all. Oh, I won't though, right?
All right. First of all, before you guys get reacquainted, This is not David Ackerman, nor is it Rob. Oh, he's a good-looking
Brian
guy.
Gari.
It is Brian Gari. This is the composer and lyricist of the Broadway show that Miss Tracy starred in. I surprised her, and I did it. You tell me anybody else on Blab does this. Nobody pulls this off.
This is pretty good.
It's pretty good. Brian, I didn't realize you looked so much like Michael Gross from Family Ties. Nobody told me that.
No, people have told me that. Well, when my beard got gray, yes, then it was Michael Gross. But originally it was Al Pacino.
Oh, yeah, Al Pacino.
Oh,
seen that too.
You're Italian, right?
I'm half Italian, yes.
You're very, very attractive. Okay, now, Brian is hilarious. Brian is like, you can't have a conversation with him without him selling and hustling. I'm like, so Brian, tell me about you. He's like, Joe, are you buying my book? I'm like, so yeah, so I have 2 brothers and I have a sister. So tell me, you're buying my CD.
She quoted from the book.
After 2 minutes on the phone with him, he sold me his everything.
Oh, that's funny.
Thank God.
I'll tell you something. What?
That's how you get a Broadway show on. You sell it.
That's right. You have to sell it. Listen, it truly was an incredible thing getting that show on Broadway. First of all, I'm so thrilled to be on with Teresa. I loved her from the beginning. I wanted her to get the part. I was the guy that, if you read the book, it says yes, yes. When they asked, what do you think? What do you think? I said yes, yes. She was perfect for the part. And, listen, both Teresa and I have Broadway credits, and a lot of people can't say that. So
this is true. Andy Warhol, we have our 15 minutes of fame.
We did. Well, let's hope it lasts a little longer.
Okay.
This is wonderful. This is wonderful. And nobody on Blab appreciates it except for the people in this room, because Blab is full of people who are going to these get rich quick like seminars. So they don't know about stuff like this. But I am a Broadway guy. I was 3 years old and I was starstruck. By the time I was 12, I was cutting school, because I was going on Wednesdays. My mom was taking me to Broadway shows, as well as the fact because they were cheaper on Wednesdays. But what I would do is I would go outside to the stage doors, from stage door to stage door on Wednesdays and the weekends, and get autographs. And Tony Roberts told me to go fuck myself.
Really?
I waited outside for him at their playing our song. Remember? And I was outside, and you guys know Tony Roberts from all the Big Nose, the Woody Allen films.
Listen, Tony Roberts is on the 20th anniversary album of Late Nite Comic.
Wait a minute. What did you send me?
Yeah, look at his name.
Is that what I bought?
Yeah, and he said, go fuck yourself again.
Tony Roberts, I've always loved him. Anyway, so, no, but I will tell you this. It was so nasty to me, and I was a 13-year-old boy. I said, I would love your autograph, and he said, go fuck yourself. He was probably in a bad mood.
Well, you never know. Yeah, whatever. That's not okay.
Stockard Channing, who was opposite him, did stop. Stockard did give me a love.
Stockard Channing, brilliant.
Yeah, but she told me to go fuck myself.
And you tried. So here's the thing. No. When you're in, but I will say the best autograph Broadway experience was seeing Sandy Duncan and Peter Pan. It was. I found out. Brian, you probably know this, that it is part of their contract. Sandy had to wait for an hour and sign everybody's autograph. It's in their contracts. They have to do it. He waited every night and talked to everybody. I mean, Brian and Teresa,
you know that you probably had an eye for
talent. Yeah, you know what? I suppose it's when they don't ask, right? That's what you always hear, when they don't ask. So you want to keep that going, and that does word of mouth. People keep going back, and she's so nice, and you always want to support someone who's nice.
Yeah. So Brian, were you at the casting table when Teresa came in? This is the stuff we want to hear.
Yes. Well, in New York, yes. In California, that was Rory Rosegarden who found.
Yeah, you hiccup. You
guys can hear me, okay?
You're
right?
Back.
Is this? Okay, because sometimes this freezes up.
No, it's okay.
It's weird not to have a microphone.
Tommy already dialed in, and Tommy said we want to hear the dirt.
Screen
I don't think there's any dirt. I think it was. Wait. So what happened? What happened in New York?
Oh! You want to hear? I was very. Teresa will attest to the fact that I was pretty clean in the book.
I think you were. I didn't really
fair. Put in
I thought
what I could have put in, right, Teresa?
Yeah, I mean, I appreciated some of it.
I mean, there's a
wait a minute.
I mean, I figured there was a way to, in the book, We Bombed into London, which is the story of the show. And the only reason I wrote it was because there were so many wrong stories written both, in newspapers and also told on television shows about the show that I decided to write that book. And actually, the book took 17 and a half years to get published because there's absolutely no interest in books on Broadway unless it's Sondheim.
Well,
there's just no interest.
Of course, I can't wait to read it. He'll sell it to me. And let me tell you, he doesn't give me a break. You get nothing for free. I'm like, I'm putting you on the show. He's like, the album, it's $16.95. I mean, nothing for free. Brian, I have to say, you're much more adorable and engaging in person than you are on email.
I don't think it was $16.95.
Brian,
was
honey, tell Brian to refresh. His
Why
connection is terrible. Brian, just refresh and reload and come back in. We'll kill time. Literally, just reload the page. That's it. He's out.
Okay.
He's out.
That's what I
so no, that happens. But I got to tell you, he's so charming because on email he's all hustle and bustle and like, did you buy my thing? I'm like, Brian, we'll get to that in a minute. But tell me how you met. Did you buy my CD? Like that, his whole spiel.
Well, he got a lot of stars to be on there, and he probably is trying to recoup a little bit. He's lovely. He's really, I really like him a lot. And he's adorable. Was he adorable back then too? Yeah, well, it was just a whole different ball game. But yeah, he was very nice. Brian was very, very nice.
Oh,
yeah.
Well,
it was definitely very positive. Obviously, it was his life, his story, his baby.
Well, that's true. It was pretty much from the beginning. That's what happened. I was working on another show actually about my grandfather, and which I'm actually going to put out an album in probably by the end of the year on the songs that I wrote for this musical about my grandfather. But what happened was there was so much interest suddenly in late night comic. We had a director that was not much of a director. He's dead now, so we can say whatever we want. But we had a director, and that sort of interested Rory Rosegarden, who thought he could raise the money. And he did raise the money, but he was only 25 years old at the time. And he really didn't know much about producing for the theater. And as Teresa mentioned earlier, it would have been probably a lasting off-Broadway show.
Oh, I bet it probably still would be going. I mean, it would be, it would have been.
Yeah, it was in the wrong house. If I'm not mistaken, was it at the Ritz? It was called the Ritz.
The Ritz.
Yeah, apparently Penn and Teller that came in after made some comments in their show regarding that we were not there anymore, and it was.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that's what I heard. I don't know.
The theater became the Walter Kerr Theater, and at the time that we were there was so much construction going on. The Marriott Marquis was being built at that time, so we were in the middle of total destruction of that neighborhood. Nobody even wanted to be around that neighborhood, let alone see a new Broadway show.
You had Phantom that had just opened down the street, literally you had Into the Woods that was just opening across the street. You had Starlight Express that was doing pretty well. You had all these giant Andrew Lloyd Webber and Sondheim spectacles. Here's us, little 13 people, and it was great. But that's why it maybe found its audience, like Little Shop or I Love You, You're Perfect, Now Change, or Rent.
But now it's different, you guys. Now it's different. You could do the Next to Normal because the musical I'm writing that I'm working on right now, it has the Next to Normal prototype. It deals with Christians and gays.
Yeah.
And I have to tell you, it's that prototype. You guys know what I'm talking about.
You find your audience.
The six people, Avenue Q. That's the big thing on Broadway now. It's the 6-person musical.
Let me tell you something. In 1987, when Late Night Comic premiered, it was a whole different. We're on. Okay, it was a whole different era. That show was never going to be revived or get a cast album. The way things are done now. I mean, Kathy Lee Gifford's show lasted 5 minutes, and they had an album out, and she talked about it on her TV show. And
Scandalous.
Yeah. And, people get shows done constantly today that didn't do well on Broadway, but they get road company versions and everything. Mm-hmm. Late Night Comic.
I don't know why it didn't, because it really is great. And the music really is wonderful. The story really is sweet.
And let me tell you something. It has been redone. I don't know if you ever knew this, Teresa, but it did get redone. It was redone 3 years ago in Fredericksburg, in
Virginia,
in Maryland. Yes,
Close to Virginia.
And it was a brilliant. Let me tell you something. It was brilliant. It was. I had tears in my eyes because it was so wonderful. 25 years later, to see this show done without any kind of aggravation and backstage crap that we went through and everything like that. Not only was it great, but here's something that you probably don't know. It's mentioned in the book, but it really stood out for me when the show was redone. The orchestrations were stolen on the night that we closed. There were only 2 people involved in the.
Who would steal orchestrations?
They were beautiful too.
Well, the people that had it in for me, I guess, decided to steal the orchestrations. There was a lot of anger because they tried to take the title song out of the show. And, I gave in on a lot of things, but that was one area that I just stood strong on. And I went to our union, which was, the Dramatists Guild. And they and they actually brought in Rory Rosegarden, the producer, and said to him, let me get this straight. What's kind of song is Late Night Comic? Is it a good song? And Rory says, yeah, it's a great song. And they said, and does it work well when it's sung? And he said, yeah. They said, then keep it in the show and don't start this kind of trouble. So the next thing I knew, I wasn't allowed to come to the theater. They put somebody as a guard and they said, you can't come in the theater. So this started all this trouble.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I did put that in, reread the book, Teresa. But anyway, what happened was I didn't realize that the orchestrations were supposed to be owned by me at the end of the show because the show didn't last and I was supposed to own those orchestrations. I didn't know that. And they were stolen on the night that it closed. They should have been returned to me at the end of the night. And what happened was when the people in Fredericksburg wanted to do the show, they had no orchestrations to work with. It was done with just a piano, but it was wonderful. And it just showed that the show can hold up if acted and performed well. And
I have a tape from not with the audience, like the reverb and all that, but like when just like of the, is that my dog?
No, it ain't mine.
Is it yours? Okay, because I have my chain here so you won't bark in the window.
Teresa.
What?
You have a bootleg recording? Is that what you do?
I do. It's not the whole thing. It's like the ballet, though. There's some of it, but it's very dry. It's very dry. It's just through the system. I never got like something where what the house hears with all the reverb and stuff. But I do have. I don't think I have the whole thing, but I definitely have some of it. And I remembered the ballet. I have that.
Well, it was done.
Very pretty.
It was beautiful on Broadway, and it was beautiful in its very primal form in Fredericksburg.
Well, sometimes less is more,
Well, it was my only alternative, but these people that did it were the kindest people to me. They treated me like royalty. I wanted Alan Nee to come see the show. He's never seen it.
Alan.
He never came.
That might be, Todd, that might be why people don't do it. I mean, if there's no orchestrations, then maybe that is why that it doesn't get done.
Nobody knows that there's no orchestrations, because I don't promote it that way. It was originally with.
It was worth a shot. She thought that maybe.
Yeah. No, it doesn't. It doesn't get done because people really don't even know it. I mean, I put out that 20th anniversary album with 17 of the biggest names.
It was a great album.
Theater. Well, thanks.
Can I do some advertising? So here is the album, which he didn't give me a nickel off, ass. But I will tell you, here are the people who participated in it, and I am starstruck just by the names: Liz Calloway, lover, Mario Cantone, Jason Gra, Rupert Holmes, Brian d'Arcy James, Liz Larson, Howard McGillen, Julia Murney, Daniel Richard, Tony Roberts, Seth Rudetsky, Paul Schaefer, Mary Testa, Martin Vidnovic, Sal Viviano, Liz's husband, Karen Ziemba, and Chip Zien. Now, some of those names the people here don't know, but if you say Chip Zien was the original Baker and Into the Woods, then they get all excited, But that is some list. My God, that is unbelievable.
That's what Larry Hochman said, because Larry Larry Hochman did the original orchestrations, and we reconstructed from pencil orchestrations. We reconstructed the orchestrations for this album. And
then you do have him now then.
Well,
Teresa would be right there.
That's right. Pencil doesn't work for theaters. They want print out versions of this. So there is a guy that writes to me on Facebook. This guy Michael, that I'm sure doesn't know that we're all on together here, but this guy says that he wants to redo Late Night Comic, and he will make sure that the orchestrations are revived somehow.
That's terrific. I have to tell you something. They say, and the score, I've been listening to it and I really enjoy it.
Thank you.
And I have to say something. There's something to be said about a score where you still remember, like Gabrielle. I had not gotten the sheet music from Brian yet, and Brian will attest to that. And I came from the back of the theater and I said to Teresa, I said, Gabrielle.
Yeah,
and I remembered it 30 years later.
Yeah.
Wow.
Come on.
Yeah.
It's a great song.
It's all the music, like Think Big, and
Well, Think Big. We just did that at the Metropolitan Room with a guy named Tom Luca, who did it.
Think Big.
He did it so great. He did Think Big. It's on YouTube, actually. I put it on YouTube. Think Big by Tom Luca, Lucca. It's a phenomenal version of just me on the piano and Tom singing it. He did a great version of that. And I should tell you about Gabrielle. Paul Schaefer, it's in the book, actually, this story. Paul Schaefer, I had no idea, was such a fan of the show, of the music and everything for the show. But one day I got a check from ASCAP, and it was for Gabrielle. And I thought, what is this? It's like a couple of $100. And it says Late Night with David Letterman. And I thought, that's a mistake. And I was afraid to call. I was afraid to call that they'd take back the money. And and they said to me, no, it was really on Late Night with David Letterman. So I called the Letterman show, and it turns out that Gabriella Sabatini, the tennis player, was a guest on Letterman, and Paul Schaefer, from memory, played her on with Gabrielle.
Wow.
Oh my God, that is unbelievable.
And it's a sweet thing to do. And that's why he was thrilled to be on this album.
Wow.
Oh, that's really terrific. That's really great.
The songs were so pretty too. The love songs.
Oh God, yeah. I was so, this was such a romantic musical. And I've got to say, I really want to make sure that everyone knows out there how thrilling it was to watch Teresa sing, dance, and act. She was wonderful. And I'll tell you very specifically, I did a radio show at the time with Anthony Newley, and it was the day that we got word that Teresa was going to be in the show, and he raved about Teresa and said how great she was. And, it's sad that we lost Anthony Newley. He was a great man.
So sweet. He was darling. He was great to work with. I have to tell one little story about Anthony Newley. When we were on the road, how little chap, if stop the world, I want to get off, stop the world. And he goes over and he talks to the audience, breaks character. And this one night, this lady had brought her newborn infant. And he starts to talk, this newborn infant is going, and he's like, oh, madam, children in the theater, what a beautiful thing. And then the baby keeps going, and he's like, but when they become a critic, it's time for them to leave. And so the audience roared, and she got up, took the baby out, and it was great. But yeah, I'll never forget that. Yeah.
And I have to tell you that I think it was kind of a little bit of a shock when I knew the name. I was like, how do I know Teresa Tracy? And I went to see Holder in the show because my friend was in a show playing, with doing this play with you. And I remember thinking, how do I know the name? How do I know the name? And then it said was in Late Night Comic in the program. And then I said, wait, now you didn't write you played the lead in it. You just said she appeared in Late Night Comic, right? Something like that.
I mean,
So I'm thinking, I know, but hold on. I didn't stop there. I was like, wait a minute. She didn't pull the curtain. This woman was it. So wait a minute. So before the lights went down, I'm on my iPhone. What did we do before the iPhones? And I went on my iPhone and I Googled on your IBDB, which everyone should know is Internet Broadway database, the only database that really matters to New Yorkers, and IBDB, and I pulled it up and it said Gabrielle. I'm like, holy F. She was Gabrielle. The song came back and I realized I'm seeing someone who I remember you so well, and I know you had the blonde hair.
Yeah.
And I remember, was one of your costumes with leg warmers from the 80s?
Yes.
Why do I remember that? I remember you leaning over the piano when Bob Lupone sung to you.
Yes.
That's all I remember.
My big direction was make sure, I don't even know if I ever really was directed. It was make sure Bob has fun, because if he's not having fun, it's not going to work. The audience will. So, of course, that's all I did was run around and surprise him and tickle him and all these things. So I was like, and of course the reviewers thought, oh, Bob was so great. And, so I was like, he came out smelling like a rose, basically.
Wait a minute. Wait, you didn't get bad reviews, did you, honey?
Well, I remember one that was like, too cute to be believable or something like that. It's really hard with these, like, it was Frank Rich days. Really, everybody loves everything in LA. You can go do.
He closed everything.
No,
Frank Rich. Critics can't close the show.
No. Frank Rich was not the reviewer for the
No,
Times.
but it was that kind of they were like that. They were all, nobody gave you a good break. It was just.
Listen,
wait, Brian.
Yeah.
Go on.
Well, when I was going to say when they were going to try and put out when we were trying to put out the original album, the owner of the record company said to me, he says, "Can we get some reviews to put up?" And I said, "No." And he said, "Well, there must be something." I said, "No." He says, "You don't have one quote?" "No."
Yeah.
There was nothing. And
oh, I think you got mixed reviews. Oh, it was all
New London, we had pretty good ones though.
Where?
New London, Connecticut.
Oh, New London. Yes.
We didn't really bomb until we got to New York, but
no, we bombed in New London.
We needed more time.
We did.
But let me ask you, I'm curious to ask you guys this question. Why is it back then? Now, June Gable's a friend of mine. You probably know June from Broadway. Yeah. June talks to me about the old days with Moose Murders, where she did Moose Murders. She did it with Eve Arden, and Eve Arden bowed out, and Holland Taylor came in. It was a mess. And she said in those days, she looked out at the audience, and in the first row was Frank Rich half asleep. And she said she said Frank Rich could close a show.
Oh.
Nowadays, Mamma Mia gets all bad reviews, and it runs for 35 years. Nobody cares anymore about reviews.
Well, that's true. And it's really was quite unfortunate. It's what I said before about having a show in 1987.
Yeah.
When it closed, there was nowhere for it to go after that. And also what I explained in the book is, before the show opened, I had calls from everybody talking to me, and they wanted to have me on this and do that show and the radio show and everything. The day that show closed, no one ever called again. That was it. They just disappeared. It was like walking down Broadway stark naked. They had no.
Now, to me, that sounds nice. But here's the thing, Brian.
It was getting cold.
But here shrinkage. But here's the thing. No. Here's the thing. You have but now it goes the other way, Brian and Teresa, because Jason Brown, now he's Jason Robert Brown, who I grew up with. I went to the French Woods, the theater camp that everybody went to. And I got to tell you, we all knew he was talented, but I never knew how brilliant he was till he wrote the score to Bridges in Madison County.
Beautiful.
Now that's a show, that's a perfect score. It got the most glorious reviews in every paper, and it closed.
I know.
It was a big bomb.
Wasn't it up for Tony or something? I know. I don't get it.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is it goes both ways. Wouldn't you agree, Brian?
Well, Joe, he's had his share of success too, which is it's very hard for somebody like me to live with a situation like Late Nite Comic where you don't get another chance. And I've been showing that I've been still writing. I had an off-Broadway review called A Hard Time to Be Single. But, Teresa went on to bring up a family. But it's very, very, very tough when you have a show that that becomes like a disaster. And then you're not asked to do anything else again. when you're Jason, you have at least, you could have a big bomb, but if you've had some success, they're going to ask you to do more.
No, but he's very bitter. He hasn't had the commercial success.
Wait, isn't the last 5 years, isn't that his show?
The last 5 years.
Yeah, but I guess what I'm trying to say is they thought Honeymoon in Vegas was
Vegas.
They thought that was going to be his
Right.
hairspray, and it wasn't.
I know.
And Parade too. He's a genius. But what I'm saying is, Brian, here's the thing. Then there are Broadway composers like me who write. I've been writing musical theater for a long time. I had a musical out here that ran for a couple of months. Every reviewer said it was the biggest piece of shit. It destroyed me, and it made me realize, all right, I just want to do my own thing, and I don't want to wait in line. And then what happens? I'm working on another musical with a co-writer in New York, and I just realized if it's a disease and you have to do it, you have to do it. And Brian, I think it's very sweet of you actually to come on here and be so modest and say, it's really hard. I never was given another chance. But by the same token, I want to say, keep that humility, because I think that humility is what makes you write beautiful music. You never want to become bitter and arrogant and say, fuck them all, I'm a genius, because that's when your music will go downhill. So you want to stay nice, and you want to embrace those feelings of sadness that you wish, because you come across like a very affable guy. You seem pretty happy, actually.
Well, fuck you. I'm a genius.
Well, you're extremely gifted, and nobody would argue that. But there was something else you wrote, because I don't remember your name just from that. Was there something else? Was there another project you were involved with? Because I've heard your name mentioned around.
As I mentioned, I had an off-Broadway review called A Hard Time to Be Single. But I also wrote a song that got a lot of attention. And actually, I got a really nice YouTube comment today. Margaret Whiting recorded a song of mine called The Coffee Shop. And
that's your song?
Yeah.
And I know Margaret Whiting, and I've heard her sing that. I heard it once, actually. I'm not going to lie and say it's on my playlist. But I heard her sing that.
Yeah. I've been writing for a long, long time. I have never stopped writing. And so, that's why it's frustrating to have this many songs and have to. I was thinking maybe because Jason has 3 names, maybe I got to add in a middle name. Maybe
yes. I want to say this before we wrap up here. People are a little confused who are coming in. I forget that when you do an internet talk show, you have to reset because people come in and out. It drives me nuts. I saw The Sound of Music, the tour the other night. It was like in the middle of Climb Every Mountain, the end of Act 1. There's like the matinee ladies are coming in to have a seat. I'm like, it's too late. It's like they're first coming in. But I want to tell everyone, no, Zinkus, listen, Mike Zinkus, I made him come in with a different name so he would surprise the star of the show.
Right.
So he's lost.
Oh, okay.
Michael, I'll fill you in later.
Okay.
Michael is a biggie. He owns a big chain of Memphis barbecue joints.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
he's a big supporter of the Joe Show.
Okay.
But Brian, keep being you, keep being
Thank
sweet.
you.
We're going to say goodbye to Brian first because Teresa's our announced
Bye.
guest.
I hate to
Bye,
leave.
Brian.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye, Brian.
Brian, I had a great time. Thank you so much for joining, and I'll get the book next. I promise. Did you give me a freebie? Nothing. Goodbye, Brian. He's adorable. I tell you something. He is so sweet.